Okay, I am standing here at the David McMillan house. And the David McMillan house sits here on Confederate Avenue, and it's seen action here on July 1st, 1863. Now this house, or the back half of the house, where you see the angle here and go down, and one time it actually came down here, that part of the house was built in 1840. The front part was added in 1890. And during the Battle of Gettysburg, it was lived in here by David McMillan, his wife Adelaide, and their children Laura, Cardine, and Oscar. Oscar being a Civil War veteran himself. Now, the McMillans owned a 20-acre apple orchard, actually which the National Park Service is replanting here and then just on the other side of Confederate Avenue. They own the largest apple orchard in Gettysburg, which was about 20 acres. And it was here on the south lawn where I'm standing, from the south end of the house into this direction leading southward down to where the North Carolina monument is, that William J. Pegram's battery stretched from the south side of this house back to where the North Carolina batteries are this day. Now, it was from this area on July 2nd and July 3rd that Confederate artillery dueled with Union artillery on East Cemetery Hill, which would be directly in front of us through those trees there. It was also just on the other side of this first set of trees right here that the historic Long Lane stretch, and you can see a part of it over here in this distance. And you'll want to go back and connect with the video I did on the historic Long Lane. And one other thing I wanted to mention about this area was that the Confederate Army actually dug trenches in the ground for their artillery, which is on the other side of Confederate Avenue against McMillan's Woods, which was named for the house. Now, as I did say, the house was struck, and there is a bullet hole that goes through the mantle of the fireplace, and then there's a bullet stuck in the door of the house. And we're going to go in the house at another date. I have a friend that lives here. His name is Doug Dowd, and he was not able to do it for me today, but he told me to come back. So we're going to do a part 2 to the David McMillan house, where I'm going to take you guys inside this private residence and show you the bullet holes. I'm going to show you the original brick walls that lined and still line the inside of the original structure here. So this has been the David McMillan house, historic David McMillan house. We did a video on the outside of this house that was built in 1840, and this is going to be part 2 inside the David McMillan house with some of the original furniture and damage to the fireplace and door inside. And I have permission from the owner of the property to do the video, so let's take a look inside. Okay, and as we come in here, I wanted to point out that there's 5 pieces of furniture that were here during the battle, 4 of which are still here today. One of them is this dresser over here. A second one was a piano, and if you want to see that today, you can go to the Adams County Historical Society where that is at now. The fireplace over here shows damage from the battle. Looks like a ball or shrapnel piece went through here and then projected over here to this door, where it's still stuck there today. The owner of the property, as he's been digging around the property doing work, has unearthed a lot of artifacts that were in the backyard, and here's some of them here. Okay, and then we're going to look at the break front, which is another piece of furniture that was here in 1863 and still here today. Oh, by the way, these are the original walls to the house that have been redone. They were once filled with horsehair plaster, which there's a little remnant of up here. The rest of it has been brought back to its historical appearance. Real nice job there with the bricks being This is the break front. This was here in 1863 during the battle, as was the blue chair in this room. This chair, that's the fourth piece out of five. One was piano, two was dresser, three was the break front, and this blue chair. And then, of course, the 7-day clock, which sits up here on top of the mantle of this fireplace. And this clock is almost identical to the one you see over at the Jenny Wade house, the house in which she was killed, her sister's house. Almost identical to that one. And that clock also has been restored and is fully functional today. And the story is that David McMillan and his daughters, during the Battle of Gettysburg, and we'll go back and do a video on that later, went out the front of the house, which today is the rear, since West Confederate Avenue wasn't here, and tore down some of the fences on their farmstead so that the troops from the Union's First Corps could make their way by. And we have been doing a video on the First Corps' arrival at Gettysburg. So this video here today, one other thing I wanted to point out while we were in this room with the blue chair is some more artifacts that have been found on the property. And this little pot over here was also found out back. And I think that's really fascinating. So this has been a video of inside the David McMillan house, part 2 of the McMillan house, here on the property of the David McMillan farm. I wanted to thank Doug, Dowd, and family for allowing me in their home and outside walking around their yard to do this series of videos, which is going to total in 3. We've done parts 1 and part 2, and I'm here at this little fire pit they got that they built that's really cool. And part 3, and the final part of the McMillan house, is going to be a little bit about some of the stuff that's been found and excavated from the property. It's mostly farm items like horseshoes and pieces of equipment. And right now they're sitting here on the porch of the house, and they're eventually going to end up in a display. So let's go over here and take a look at them. And as you see, there's some glass, some horseshoes, and such. And this has all been excavated from the property here. Some little bit of pottery, it looks like, from the David McMillan house. And again, to recap, the David McMillan house seen action here on July 1st, 1863. The old part of the house is the back here. The front was put in 1895. It is a battle-damaged house. It was hit, according to some records, 21 times during the battle. However, the only visible evidence of that today is the bullet hole in the mantle of the fireplace and door, which we've seen in part 2 inside the bullet house. And David McMillan also removed some fences here on the southeast portion of his property to allow the First Corps troops to make their way over to the Lutheran Theological Seminary. You can go back and watch our videos on First Corps arrival at Gettysburg to see that. This has been the David McMillan House, Part 3, on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook.